Welcome to the Nature Newsroom. My name is Alejandro Alba. I'm a host and correspondent for Now This News, and today I'm being joined virtually by Professor Jeffrey Sachs, who is the director of the Center for Sustainable Development at Columbia University. Thank you so much for joining us. Can you tell us a little bit more about the progress that we've seen so far and the declarations that have come out of COP26?
Well, there has been some progress because more countries committed to net zero. There have been commitments on the rainforests. There have been many other kinds of commitments. It doesn't add up to what we need. So I think most of us are viewing this as worrisome progress, but it's not coming together the way that it needs to come together.
Yes, some have been deemed as landmarks and some others false promises. One of the texts that came out this morning was accelerating the process of phasing out fossil fuels. Is that something that is actually doable? Is that pledge actually, is it an empty pledge, or is it something that will, be met?
Look, the Paris goal of staying below 1.5 degrees C is tough but doable. It requires decarbonizing the energy system. The International Energy Agency issued a very good report that I encourage everybody to read if they haven't done so already on net zero by 2050, showing the technological pathways to success, showing also the financial pathways to success. So this is doable. We're not on track to do it. We're not organized institutionally properly to do it. We don't have the financial system properly organized to do it, but it's doable and it's extremely important to do. So what makes this so painful is that we could succeed, but we are not succeeding.
You mentioned 1.5, which is kind of the battle cry of COP26, but new research came out saying that with all the pledges by 2030, that puts us at 2.4, which is far above from where we should be, right? How do you see the negotiations? What needs to be done in the negotiations or post-COP to get that number down?
We need a much more serious energy system planning process, not just diplomats and declarations, but engineers working within and across countries, because also the energy system of the future will be interconnected across national borders. In some places it'll be sunny, in other places it'll be cloudy. You connect the two, then you have an energy system that can work, that recognizes the intermittency of the core energy sources that we need, the wind, the solar, and other zero carbon energy sources. So we need the engineers engaged. I'll be co-chairing with the Director General of UNIDO a new council of engineers for the energy transition starting in 2022 that I hope is going to be extremely practical. This is what needs to be done. These are the investments that need to be made, doing that country by country, region by region, on a global scale. As I say, following along the guideposts that the International Energy Agency has set. So these COP meetings basically are gatherings of diplomats and lawyers to discuss text, but we need the energy system investments now being transformed at a far faster rate than is happening right now. And we have to put this in engineering terms in the years ahead. Where's the grid going to be? What are the primary energy sources? What can we not invest in any longer? What should we be investing in? Interestingly, BlackRock, for example, signed on to all these wonderful declarations of responsibility and then announced yesterday it's making new fossil fuel investments in the Middle East. Well, come on, is this a game, or is this our planet that we're trying to save? That's really what's at issue here. And we need much more detail and consequence of what's happening country by country. And we need coordinated analysis and discussion and brainstorming on that. This political process is one thing, but the technical engineering process is a different thing that needs to be done. And then alongside that, the financing to carry out the needed investments.
Right, and another thing that's being criticized is that these pledges are, we'll meet again in 5 years, or we'll meet again in 5 + 5 years. How often should these conversations be had, and not just confined to 2 weeks at COP?
Well, this should not be a series of conferences. This should be an ongoing daily task that is coordinated by, I think, the UN system in various agencies, whether it's on land use at Food and Agriculture Organization or for industrial transformation at UNIDO and so forth, but ongoing, and engaging the senior technocrats of governments around the world to be putting numbers, plans, documents in place, not these conferences once a year, once every 3 years, stock taking and so forth. There's a role for that, but it's not getting the job done. And we should understand why, which is that we actually need those who build the systems at the table and required to be at the table to detail what are the investment plans in the next 6 months, next year, and so on. Now, governments will say, oh, no, I'm not responsible for that, but we'll end up with the same mess that we have with COVID, which is we have a global pandemic. We don't cooperate properly to end it, so it just goes on. And climate change is like that. Unless we are much clearer, much more specific, much more technical at what to do, not in 2 years, next month. What are the investment choices? What is the power grid that should connect neighboring countries and so forth? We won't make it unless we do the right things.
And speaking of not seeing eye to eye on negotiations, something that's being put on the spotlight right now is Article 6. There is rumor that we might hear some final, declaration on that. What do you think is the problem, the obstacle with talking about carbon markets and making sure we have correct framework around them?
Carbon markets are a piece of an even larger policy framework puzzle. And the bigger problem, in my opinion, is we don't have good cooperation on any of those technical areas. The way that this whole effort is structured is that individual governments are supposed to declare what they're going to do and then do their own thing. This, in my view, is doomed to fail. The way to succeed on climate change is not 193 countries individually deciding what they're going to do because they're the great sovereign countries, but rather cooperating and coordinating at a technical level to make an energy system that is fit for humanity and is transformed quickly to be fit for humanity. That's a different kind of task. But the problem is we live in a world of nation states where each government says, I'm in charge. Each politician says, I'm in charge. The result is no one is really responsible for the global climate, and we are getting increasingly into disaster territory.
All right, so what is your call to action coming out of COP26? What do you want people watching this segment to know and do?
Well, in specific terms, what we need to do, we need to decarbonize by 2050. We need to follow the International Energy Agency very clear instruction: no more investment in fossil fuels. It didn't say some here, some there. It said no more investment in fossil fuels. Then we need technical analyses around the clock now, not in annual meetings, but we need cooperation at a sophisticated technical level. What will the energy system in Europe look like? What will the energy system in ASEAN look like? What will the energy system in North America? Because the US can't do this alone. We have to connect with Canada and Mexico in North America to make a zero carbon grid. This is partly an engineering task and partly a financing strategy consistent with the engineering approaches. And we basically run out of time because to build this infrastructure is a 20-year process. We're at the moment when we need to be building right now, not debating words. And so I would like to see, as soon as this COP ends, serious, ongoing, daily meetings of senior technical representatives of governments working round the clock on the technical issues of getting to net zero.
All right. Well, thank you so much. I really appreciate you taking the time and giving us all this insight and commentary.
Great to be with you. Thanks so much.
Thank you.